the external nares?
Nostril.
Nostril. So you would say nostril, your doctor's going to say external nares. All right, so then we have your nasal cavity. Let's do, where's your vestibule? Or vestibule?
Very fine part.
That's where the boogers hang out, right here, the entrance to your nostril, right? Nasal septum, where is that on the picture?
It's not on the
Very good. The nasal septum is not on the picture because that's where they cut you, right? That's the vertical line wall. So they took off the nasal septum when they cut you. But I bet you money you can tell me A, B, and C. What's A?
Conchae. Superior, and inferior.
Superior, middle, and inferior nasal concha. So where's the meatus?
In between.
In between. That's the tubing that's under or between the conchae. So the conchae is the bump, the meatus is the hole or the space. You're supposed to know the paranasal sinuses from 231. There are two of them on here. Which one's this one? I can change your grade up to a year after you take your class. Sphenoidal sinus. This one here. Frontal sinus. There's two others you better know soon. Okay, let's do hard palate. Give me a letter for hard palate. H. That's the roof of your mouth or your palatine bone. Where's soft palate? Take a look at that. S. How about that? It's the back, right? Alright, so let's do some pharynx. From lecture, where's your pharynx?
Behind the nose.
Behind the nose, behind the mouth, behind the throat. So it's the back. So we're going to break it down. If I go from here up to there, which pharynx is that one? Naso. If I go here to about here, oro, here to here, laryngo. So upper third, middle third, or basically nose, back of throat, mouth, back of throat, larynx, back of throat. So you're breaking it down basically to three parts. Those are all pharynges. Make sense? Okay. So in the nasopharynx, you have some parts. Where's your internal nares? What letter? U. In English, inside nostril. So if you get your boogers this way, you'd have to come around. That opening there is the opposite of that one. So that's your internal nares, your internal posterior nasal aperture. Then we have something labeled V. What is V? Very good. Remember last time the eustachian tube you learned? That's where it comes out in your upper airway. So that's your opening of your auditory or pharyngeal lymphatic tube. All right, then you're supposed to know letter F.
Palatine tonsil?
It's a tonsil, but not palatine. Pharyngeal, because of my pharynx. That's also called your adenoid. Right, that's the one protecting. Remember last time you learned lymph nodes protect. That's protecting the entrance to your ear there. That's one of the lymph nodes. So that's all in my nasoland. Now we're going to go down to my oroland, which has a few things. I need a palatine tonsil. I want it now. Give me a letter.
I, X, what are those? X. X.
A. Okay. It's hard to see, I know. Okay. It's the bump on the side of your jaw back there. So give me T. What's T going to be?
It's going to be a vowel.
Lingual tonsil. On the tongue tonsil. So your palatine is one that people talk about getting removed. The lingual is actually on the tongue. Those are lymph nodes in those locations. So fauces is the most overrated word in town. What's a faucet at your home? It's an opening where stuff goes in and out, right? A fauces in your mouth, you have an external fauces where you open your lips, you have an internal fauces where the food goes into your pharynx. It just means the opening to your jaw, basically. Uvula, find it. That's I, that's the dilly-dangle hanging down. That's so scientific sounding, right? The dilly-dangle hanging down in your mouth. That's your uvula. That's in my oro. Now I'm going to go laryngo. This is where life gets more busy. So in my laryngopharynx, the big thing, what's all this structure here?
Thyroid cartilage.
The whole thing.
Larynx.
Larynx. So the whole thing is the larynx. So I have to zoom in on those. So let me give you a zoom in here. Let's do okay, so this is kind of a bigger view. So larynx, again, is just the top part right here before you go down this way. So we're going to name some stuff. I want number 1. Thyroid cartilage, because your thyroid gland lives on it. That's your thyroid cartilage. I want number 2. Cricoid cartilage, or cricoid, you'll hear both. So cricoid pressure to an EMT. That's the one, that's the blue below that one. Then these ones, number 9, tracheal, because they're in your trachea. Right? Right? So the blue is our cartilage, so thyroid, cricoid, and then tracheal. Then the problem is you've got to name some other stuff in there. So I'm going to spin that one around. Let's start with number 3.
Unicorn?
It's on top of it. Epiglottis. Amen. So that's my epiglottis. That's the flap that's going to fold down, looking at it from the rear. That's the thing that points up on top of my airway, epiglottis. Then we have these blue things here. Okay, number 5 is this weird-looking hook thing. Arytenoid cartilage. Okay, if you look at the tip of number 5, you get this bump number 6. What's number 6?
Uniform.
Try again. Corniculates, in order, actually. That's the corniculate cartilage. There's one that's not shown, which would be up here, which would be the cuneiform. Excuse me. So you have 3 of them. You have arytenoid, corniculate, and cuneiform form the 3 that go up the back there.
What is the gland on the side of it on the model? It's on our model.
Should be a thyroid if it's on that.
Okay.
So those are the 3 in the back of it. So you have the thyroid, cricoid, those are on the front basically, and then arytenoid, corniculate, and cuneiform on the back. You okay with those?
Yes.
All right. So the cuneiform, by the way, none of the models color blue. So you should be able to find it. Click here to open. Why isn't it opening? I want an open larynx. Let's try it. Let's do this one. That'll work. So remind me what number 2 is again? How about number 3? Cricoid cartilage. Okay, so now we're going to go inside that. We have A and B over there. What's A?
Where's the A? I don't see the A.
Vestibular fold would work, or you could say false vocal cord. So on your quiz, either put vestibular fold or false vocal cord. Don't put like vocal fold. I don't know if you actually know what it is or just making this up. So either put vestibular fold or false vocal cord. Don't mix and match those. That's bad. Because the second one, B, is what? That's the vocal fold or the true vocal cord. So either do false and true or vestibular and vocal. Don't give me like true vestibular fold. I'm just going to throw that one out. Right? I learned false and true. That's what I learned. But the top one's always the fake one. The bottom one's always the true one. Right? So those are your vocal cords or folds. Make sense? All right. So now we have some other problems. We got to name these tissues between the blue. We'll start with this one, which has no number. What do you call that? So thyroid hyoid membrane. Right? There's one. It's hard to see on this picture. There's one right here. Cricothyroid ligament. And there's one here. Cricotracheal. So you're naming it between the blues. Just name the 2 blues. So thyroid hyoid, cricothyroid, cricotracheal. You're just naming the 2 parts that make the connection. We have to remember it's membrane versus ligament, which is a
If
pain.
it's a thyroid
Thyroid.
membrane, would that be okay?
Technical answer is no. It has to be thyroid hyoid, but I'm a forgiving, merciful guy.
Oh.
That's how mad I am at you that day.
Okay.
Right? Yes. Yes.
Is the one headed from the top down, is the middle one then the cricothyroid?
Cricothyroid.
Okay,
And then cricotracheal.
okay, so I have that.
So then the magic one, I always ask somewhere, there's a big bump right here, right there. What is that bump? Laryngeal prominence, which we all know is an Adam's apple, but of course you can't dull someone for Adam's apple, so you're going to say laryngeal prominence. Sticks out your larynx. So find me a hyoid bone on this picture. What number is it? 1. Number 1. So that's the hyoid bone you learned in 231. Right, so larynx, you're going to name all the blue stuff, basically. That's the important part of the larynx. Make sense? That's upper airway. Now we got to go down from larynx. So now we're past the pharynx, and now down in the larynx. Let's go through that. Alright, so we know 9 is the trachea, right?
Yes.
Alright, so let's find something that wasn't in your lab manual. Where's your carina?
It's a split.
It's a split between 12 and 11. Sorry, 12 and 11. So right there, that V is your carina. So tell me what 11 and 12 actually are.
Primary bronchi.
You can say primary bronchi or main. They're sitting in. The rule is every time you split, you give it another number. So this is number 1, or main, or primary. How about number 14?
Secondary.
Secondary, they're the next split, right? So there's secondary, also called low bars. And then there'd be a split further down, which you can't really see.
Tertiary.
It'd be tertiary or segmental. Those are all, so 1 to 2, 2 to whatever, on and so forth. Right? So then what would come after your tertiary bronchi? Bronchioles, which are smaller. And then we go down from there. So I'm going to zoom in on some of that. I think I have one here. He's got one here. There we go. So let's review again. Tell me about number 15. Primary what? Bronchus or bronchi. How about number 22s? And 23s? They're secondaries. Okay, smarties, give me 2016. Tertiaries, very new, right. So splitting, split. So then if these got small enough so you couldn't see them, then you'd be in the bronchioles. And then you'd be in the alveoli and all that. So all that's microscopic. So on these models, all you can really get down to is the bronchus level. You can't really get past that.
What's the difference between this terminal bronchi and the respiratory bronchi?
We'll get that, that's on a slide. Hold that thought. Oh wait, there's more. We're supposed to do the lungs themselves. So, let's figure that out. Can someone tell me where the root is on this model?
In the hilum.
In the hilum. So tell me where the hilum is in this model.
The hilum is the indentation where those bronchies are going in.
How about that? So, a hilum is a depression. So, this little scoop out, right here and here, the kidney bean look, those are called hilus or hilum. The stuff in the hilum, all the plumbing we call it, that's the root. So the analogy is, you pull a plant out of the ground, you got the roots is all the stuff, the hilum is the whole. Right? So the hilum is the depression, the root is all the plumbing that lives in that depression. Make sense? So they're the same place, they're not the same thing. So where's the base of your lung?
Concave bottom.
Listen to you, concave bottom. Where's the apex?
I just read it.
He just read it. Don't ruin the lie. Come on. Right. Apex is the top, like you expect. Okay, costal surface. Show me where it is.
Anything touching the ribs?
Anything touching your ribs. So in English, it's the outside of your lungs, the part that'd be on the rib side or lateral side. Okay, cardiac notch. Is it on there?
Wait, Mr. Christie.
Yes.
With the intercostals area, is that also the front though?
Yeah, because they're current. So basically, anything that'd be like lateral or the superficial.
Okay.
Where's the cardiac notch?
Where your heart sits?
Yeah, it is where my heart sits. Can you give me a number up here, maybe near it?
24.
24, 7, yeah, this little carve out. So that's one way I could ask you to know a right and a left lung. The left lung over here has a spot for the heart. The right lung does not. So there's a cardiac notch only on one of them.
I'm like, wait a second.
Okay. So, with that, let's go down the lobes.
Right.
How many lobes on the right lung?
3.
How many on the left lung?
2.
Why?
Because of the
Because
heart.
of the
The
cardiac
heart counts as the lobe. So, you have only 2 lobes on the left because the heart takes up one. You have 3 lobes. Another way I could ask you a right from a left. So you have to know the difference in the number of lobes and locations. But then there's also the fissures, which are the lines. So, how many fissures would be on the left lung?
1.
1, because you have 2 lobes. Very good. Let me go back there. I appoint many a student with that question. Let's get along again.
He says
Right, so here's my fissure, making 2 lobes because the heart would have been there. This one you can't really see it very well, but there'd be two fissures making the 3 lobes. Right, so let's do that. So what do you call the fissure? You can't see in this picture. There's one that's straight across, and there's one that comes up at an angle. Which one would go straight across? And which one would come up at an angle? Oblique. So look at the model, you'll see the difference in those two. This one doesn't show up very well. And we know pleura, right, from class. Ooh, is there a diaphragm on this picture? No, there isn't, but you know that from class.
There's a lateral one.
There's like one. Right? So doing okay. So make sure you know right from left lungs based upon the clues of fissures and lobes and hearts. Right? Okay, that ends pretty much the model stuff. Now we get to hit you with slides. Ready for slides? Let me hear you say amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there silence?
Let's go to
I
J-Dot.
know Mooney's
Shall we?
really excited about this.
Before I take you to J-Dot, I'm going to take you to Boston first. So, if this were a slide on your lab quiz or exam, you'd have to name the organ to see. So let's ignore this one for right now. What organ is this one on the left? Trachea is the only choice you have, right? How would you know that's a trachea?
Round.
Round, that's useful.
Hole in the middle.
There's a hole in the middle, that's working good. Alright, what are these?
Cartilage.
That's the cartilage ring. So that's one of the clues is that you have something with rings of cartilage going almost all the way around, making a C or signet. Really huge, big hole, that's got to be your trachea. Alright? But you're supposed to name the layers within the trachea. Let's start here. What do you call the center?
Lumen.
Why is it called that?
Because it's the middle.
Because it's bright, it illuminates. Right? Remember, gotta be a drunk Roman, it's light. It's illuminating. What do you call the layer right here, the dark layer, that is touching the lumen? Mucosa, because mucosal touches the edge. So what would you call everything below the mucosa? Submucosa, because it's below. What do you call the very outside you can barely see here? Adventitia. So there's 4 layers, basically. You have lumen, which I guess isn't a layer. Mucosa, submucosa, adventitia. So if you learn them in that order, it makes some sense. So you can go lumen, mucosa, submucosa, and adventitia. But wait, there's more. Because you're supposed to know what's in each layer. So we use the Boston, then I'll go out to J-Dot. There's a close-up of a trachea. So, white space, what is that? These cells here, what layer are they in? No, that's a tissue there. What layer are they in? Mucosa. What tissue are they, say ye? PCC, pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelial tissue, right? So the organ is the trachea, the layer is the mucosa, the tissue is the PCC. Right? So the mucosal layer is pseudostratified ciliated columnar. So then, what layer is this? Submucosa. Let's find some things in there. Oh, these look neat. What are they? Seromucous glands. Very good, because they make watery snot, which is seromucus. They're in the submucosa. Here's their tubing that they use to dump it on your surface. Those are the seromucous glands, also called submucosal glands.
So are those connected to the goblet cells then? Or
No, they should come out as a duct, but the goblet cells serve a similar purpose.
Right, okay,
But they're just different locations.
okay.
You okay in our submucosa or seromucous glands? Okay? So then let's zoom out again.
Wait a minute, so where are the goblet cells then?
They would be up in the PCC.
I thought those
So
circular things?
right here.
Oh.
There's one there. I'll get you a close-up. Hold on. You okay on those layers so far? Okay, smarties. Let's make you hurt.
Oh, God.
No, thank you.
No.
So, if I had this picture and wanted to find a trachealis muscle, where would I go? I would go to the back of your trachea and look in here. It's not shown very well, but there's a muscle that connects the C of your trachea. That's called trachealis. It bends those rings close together. So it's on the back side against this thing. What in the world is that?
Oh, my God.
That's an esophagus. That's your food tube. So the windpipe's in the front, the food tube's in the back, the trachealis forms that layer kind of between the two. But that would also be considered submucosal.
Is it only back there, not anterior?
It's not anterior, it's always in the back. Yes. So what happens is it's supposed to bend those rings closer to the cough, for example. So it stretches them this way.
So, I thought that the tracheal cartilages were a C shape and the only
Yes.
opening was in the back.
Yes.
But on there, it looks like there's 3.
Right, well they just did a weird cut.
Okay.
But this should be complete. They
Okay.
missed it here and here.
Okay.
That would be complete. And then, yeah, the trachealis would be there. So they just don't look C in this picture.
Okay.
You're right. You okay on those?
So
Okay.
trachealis is in the back.
In the back, in the posterior. On your slides, you can see it. Because I saw it on some of your slides. So let me show you this then. Let's go to J-Dot. My favorite place to be. And let's not show you anything. I want you to cry. Alright, so if this were on a test, let me ask the question first, please. What organ is it? Now say. Alright, how did you know that's not a trachea? Doesn't look like right. You can't see layers, you can't see rings, you can't see this is not a trachea, right? So your two choices are trachea or lung. See, coughing up mine now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start zooming in on the lung. I'm going to show you something. And that is like this picture here.
Oh, that's cool looking.
That is cool. That's one of my favorite slides.
Bronchial.
This is a bronchus, which is not something you have to know on a slide. But let's look at those layers again. So if you know those layers in a trachea, you know the layers everywhere. So if I pointed here, you would say that's what? If I pointed to this here, you would say
PCC.
mucosa made of PCC. If I pointed to all this, you would say submucosa. I pointed out here somewhere, about here, adventitia. It's the same layers in every tube. So even if this weren't a trachea, it's the same logic. So every tube you're looking at is going to have the same layers. And look here. What is that? It's cartilage. Those are hyaline cartilage. Those little cat's eyes. So I can see cartilage, but it's not in a C ring. It's kind of all the way around. So that means it's not a trachea. I can see the same layers in every tube I look at. Let me prove that. Here's another tube, close up. Are there 4 layers here? Let's find out. What's this one here?
Lumen.
What's this one here?
Mucosa.
What's this one here?
Submucosa.
So the same layers as the trachea, PCC, here's hyaline cartilage, here's a seromucous gland here. I can see the same layers. So every slide you have all the same layering shows. Right? This just happens to be bronchus. That's going to change if I zoom in one more time to this one. Alright, that thing on the top. What is that?
Lumen.
It's not a trachea, nope. It's a bronchiole, not a bronchus. Bronchiole. How do I know that's not a trachea or a bronchus? What's it missing?
No cartilage.
There's no cartilage. So when in dark ages, when I went to college, I learned that once you lose the cartilage, you are by definition a bronchiole. Because bronchus means I have cartilage. So on a test, I would say, hey, I don't see any cartilage around that tube. That must be a bronchiole. That's how I would interpret that. There's some debate on that. But you're supposed to see what you have instead, which is this red line. What is that red line that wasn't in the other one, but is in this one? That was in 231, that line. Smooth muscle, which tells you these things can do what if they have smooth muscle in them? They can contract and change, right? The trachea can't really, but these ones can. So you can have bronchioles that change size. The bronchiole would still be a tube, you still have a lumen, you still have a mucosa, you still have a submucosa, you just don't have cartilage in it. You're just getting smaller. Make sense? Yeah.
It says cartilage plate, but
Yes.
it's the bronchiole.
There are bronchioles formally that have a chunk of cartilage but not a ring. And so they call them a plated bronchiole, which I would never bring up on a slide. Because I don't agree with that definition. Right? Well, let's keep going. That's my bronchiole. That's the tube that gets me into the next batch. So prepare your mind, body, and soul for this next one. This is one of my favorite slides ever. Makes me drool. Just curvy enough to care. All right. So we're going to look at this thing here versus this thing here. It's all one tube from the side. But what do you know is different about here and here?
Dark layer.
Darker layer. What about the layer?
Maybe it has smooth muscle. The other doesn't.
Does the one on the left look a little thicker?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are both bronchioles. These are tubes getting in my lungs. But this one is thick. This one is thin. Oh wait, there's blood there. Oh, the blood's way over here. What did we learn about smokers? What happens when you smoke? And what happens when it's thick?
It gets brittle.
Starts
It's
cracking.
brittle, cracks, and doesn't exchange. So, we call this one here a terminal bronchiole, because you're going to die. Right? Yeah. And then this one is a respiratory bronchiole because it's thin enough that I can get gases to cross this membrane. So this side will respire, This one will not, but there's still a bronchiole. They're just different types of bronchioles. So a respiratory bronchiole is the thinnest kind because you can get gases to exchange or respire. Right? So that gives you a difference you're supposed to know. If you go back in your objectives, you're supposed to know the respiratory zone versus the conduction zone. What does respiratory zone mean? Gas exchange. So you were in the respiratory zone starting about here, that way. So this side just moves air. Therefore, what zone is that one? Conducting zone, because all I'm doing is moving air in and out of your lungs and not having it go between the blood and out. Yes?
Just be clear, because you mentioned something
Yes.
about the smoker. That's not damage, though.
That's not damage. That's normal. Same concept, though. So the thicker the tube, the less exchange. Yes?
Does all that tissue that's around, all that alveolar sac stuff, is
Yep.
on the left side though, is that gonna
Yep.
die?
No, it's fine, because there's other tubes coming around that's just not on the slide. Right. But this is a terminal bronchiole, it's thicker, conductive. This is a respiratory bronchiole, it's thinner and respiratory. Makes sense? But still bronchiole, still a tube with no cartilage. But then what you're supposed to name are the alveolar stuff. Oh, good lord. Okay. Give me a second here. I gotta zoom in on this one. Alright. So, if I point to some round open space, like here, or there, what have I pointed to?
Alveolar.
Alveoli or alveolus would be fine, an air sac. Okay, now the problem is there's other words that deal with that one. So let me show you a picture. Give me just a second to find it on Boston site. Yes. This is a label diagram basically of what I just showed you. So here's my bronchiole coming in, and then this tube here is servicing all these air ducts, all these air sacs. We call that the duct. The alveolar duct is the tube at the end of the bronchiole that basically goes to the air sacs. So your analogy is the stem of a bunch of grapes. The stem is the duct. Each circle would be the grape. Right? So this respiratory bronchiole gets really, really thin and vanishes and becomes an alveolar duct to serve all these alveoli. Yes?
Can we see that in contrast with the terminal bronchiole and the
Sure, not easily though. I don't think there's a slide that shows all three. On this one, this over here, I would argue would be terminal here. And then respiratory would begin about here to here, then duct would be there.
Okay, so terminal also applies to the closed end in the
Yes.
duct,
Yep.
as well as the thicker lining because
Yes.
it's not conducting.
Just depends
Or
where
I
you
mean,
cut it.
if it's not exchanging.
Right. So I would argue, if this were my test, I have a bronchiole here and an alveolar duct kind of there because this opens into the alveoli like here, here, here.
So what's the sac?
Then let's do a sac. Sac is a bizarre concept, but it does work. Let me show you a sac in this context. Should be this one. Yes. So here we have the same kind of concept. So we got some big bronchiole over here. Here's more bronchiole here. Thinner, thinner, thinner. Hey, this tubing is really thin. In fact, it's gone. And it's servicing these alveoli. So what is from about here to here? What would you call that? That'd be like a duct. Each circle is an alveolus. But look here. Here's a cul-de-sac. We got a bunch of grapes all in a circle. Notice the wording on coldy what?
Sac.
That's a sac. An alveolar sac is a dead end of each alveolar duct. Here, 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 here. Those are sacs. So the end of the alveolar duct. Alright? So the duct becomes a sac, which leads to alveoli. Yes?
So, but the duct is distinct from the respiratory zone, or?
The duct would be included in the respiratory zone
Okay.
because it's also exchanging.
Could you show on there the difference between the bronchioles, the terminal bronchioles, the respiratory bronchioles? The respiratory.
This would be a terminal bronchiole, I would argue, at least down to here.
Oh,
Respiratory bronchiole would be about from here to here. It's really short in this picture.
okay.
And this would be a duct from here all the way down. These would be sacs here, here, and here. Okay? So I'm going to draw you a bad picture, because I'm such a good artiste, helping you between sac, duct, and respiratory stuff. So, bear with me. This seems to work in yours best. Alright. I'm going to draw a bronchiole there. Okay? And I'm going to take that and do something like this out of it. And these ones, I'll have little circles near them. So if these are tubes that have circles on them, what kind of tube am I trying to draw? Alveolar ducts. Meaning the stem of the grapes. So I just drew 2 alveolar ducts coming off of this bronchiole. Then I'm going to continue my duct out. I'm going to do something like this.
It's a hand.
A hand, indeed. Or in this context, what am I representing with these circles here? That's the sac. Here. Notice how beautifully anatomically correct it is. So the duct leads to usually a sac, which is the end of the duct. The alveoli, or any of the circles, anywhere on that duct.
So where's the terminal?
Terminal
Where
would
does
be,
it go from terminal to
terminal would be like
respiratory?
right
Terminal's
here.
the head of the bronchiole.
So here's terminal, here's respiratory, there's
That's
duct.
the head of the respiratory, okay.
So the
So is
sac
there-
is part of the duct.
Is there semi-diffusion in the respiratory?
Diffusion would start
bronchiole?
here
Okay.
and go that way.
Okay.
Everything downstream from the respiratory bronchiole. So you know a sac when you see it. It's just hard to define it. But it's like these little cul-de-sacs like in the suburbs, right? So here's your main, here's Foster Road, whatever, here's some street you don't name, and here's where all the rich people live. Okay? We don't have cul-de-sacs inside, we call them dead ends. Right? That's what we call them. You okay in that concept?
Yes.
Alright. So if you can identify those kind of things on a slide, tracheal, then you pretty much got it. So you've been through everything for lab. Make sense? Use the rest of your time as wisely or as poorly as you choose. Next week I'll have a quiz, lecture, and lab.